future. Mandy will be answering a lot of the questions that we frequently get. We will go over some legal matters and then some practical matters from me, Marie, and real life examples from your peers, and then also questions and answers from you. So, United for Libraries is a special division of the American Library Association, otherwise known as ALA, that is specifically for non-librarian advocates of the library, such as trustees, Friends members, or foundation affiliates. The acronym ALTAF stands for the former name of United for Libraries, which was the Association of Library Trustees, Advocates, Friends, and Foundation. So now it's a much easier name to remember, called United for Libraries.
Okay, well, we're probably all familiar with the famous refrain from the Beatles song that says, "I get by with a little help from my friends." Friends are becoming a necessary part of life for public institutions as well as for people. Decades of changes in public attitudes toward government spending have brought intense pressures to bear upon library budgets. At the same time, the value of many endowments has diminished to unforeseen lows. In many cases, Friends of the Library groups, by mounting advocacy campaigns, raising funds from private sources, or providing volunteer labor, have made it possible for the library to continue services that would otherwise have been eliminated. Many libraries in Iowa have Friends of the Library groups, or library foundations, or both, sometimes separately and sometimes together. Here are the answers to some frequently asked questions about such organizations box, but here are some Q&A that I often get. These are the answers to some frequently asked questions that Mary Ann and I have received about Friends and Foundation organizations.
So here's the first one. What is the difference between Friends groups and foundations?
The Friends is a membership organization. The Foundation is not. The Foundation has donors, but not members. Friends typically handle more fluid funds in smaller amounts than foundations, which are viewed as major fundraising organizations. Friends are often volunteers for the hands-on work at the library. Foundations usually have employees who work in an office. According to several sources, the word foundation seems to establish more trust among contributors than simply the word friends. Library Friends groups have been in existence for more than 100 years, while library foundations are a relatively new addition to the library support world. The majority of library foundations have just been formed within the last 20 years. Unlike their counterparts, the Library Friends groups, library foundations tend to be staff-driven. Activities of library foundations are typically higher-level fundraising operations, including annual fund drives for special programs and projects, high-profile ticket events, planned giving campaigns, corporate foundation grant writing and sponsorships, capital campaign fundraising for new and renovated buildings, and major gift solicitation from individuals. Foundations are usually formed when larger amounts of money are needed than can be raised by the Friends group. These funds can then be invested until they are dispersed.
So can we have both?
In many communities, Friends and Foundations operate side by side in support of the same library. However, there are times when having two separate nonprofit organizations supporting the same library can create some overlap in responsibilities and some confusion on the part of the community at large. A model of support which is gaining in popularity is a merged Friends group and foundation partnership that can conduct book sales, author programs, and advocacy efforts, as well as all of the major fundraising activities like planned giving, major gifts, and capital improvement campaigns. There are several advantages to the merged model of the Friends group and the foundation, but the most obvious is probably that it creates only one nonprofit organization that needs to recruit board members and file annual papers with the state and municipal governments, thus reducing the administrative overhead required to run two separate associations. Perhaps the strongest reason for considering a merged organization is how the community at large might understand the library and its support structures. Most individuals will have a difficult time understanding the distinction between a Friends group and a foundation. When a donor has to ask, "To whom do I write my check? Is it the Friends or the foundation?" the likely answer may be that the donor will write it to neither. Having just one organization makes it very clear where an individual's financial and volunteer support should go. In any case, a change to a merged model should be done with a great deal of preliminary planning and the full involvement of both of the existing corporations to be certain that this is the right move for everyone involved. Even if a decision is made not to merge the two support groups, the process of discussing the issue certainly helps to clarify the roles and responsibilities of the existing Friends and the existing foundation. In these times of shrinking public resources, having efficient and effective library support organizations is more critical than ever.
So how does a Friends group or library foundation file for incorporation?
Nonprofit incorporation begins with the Secretary of State's office. Once a Friends or Foundation steering committee has been established, the potential organization's mission statement, purpose, and structural governing documents must be written. The Secretary of State will require articles of incorporation, which must include the corporation's name, its official address, its initial registered agent at that address, the name and address of each incorporator, and whether there will be members, and how assets will be distributed upon dissolution. An incorporator must sign the articles and include a $20 filing fee. After the articles are filed with the Secretary of State, a certificate of acknowledgement will be issued to the nonprofit corporation. At that point, there should be an organizational meeting to adopt bylaws, elect officers, decide upon a fiscal year, and discuss other business. It will be helpful to visit the website for the Iowa Secretary of State at www.sos.iowa.gov. Click on the Nonprofits tab in the top toolbar, and then click on any links of interest, such as forming a nonprofit, forms and fees, and frequently asked questions. Call staff with any questions you might have. They're very responsive.
So often we get asked the question, do Friends and foundations have to be 501c3 organizations?
Well, Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code grants a general exemption from the payment of federal income tax for corporations such as Friends and foundations that are organized and operated exclusively for educational purposes. There are two main reasons an organization would want tax-exempt status. First of all, it can accomplish more with the money it gets if it's exempt from having to pay income taxes by being able to hang on to surplus funds. And two, any group can raise money more easily if it also qualifies as a tax-deductible enterprise because donors can deduct their charitable contributions. Without such status, why would anyone give to the Friends when they could make a direct donation to the library and get a tax deduction just for donating to a government agency? Many businesses will not contribute to a nonprofit unless it has 501c3 status. So right there, Friends and foundations have cut themselves off from some very lucrative resources if they don't incorporate. It is extremely difficult to raise funds for an organization that is not tax exempt. There are other advantages. In Iowa, federal tax exemption qualifies an association for a state exemption from income, property, and sales taxes. It also enables fundraising groups to make mass mailings at third-class postal rates, a considerable savings. The status often makes available additional funds in the form of grants from government agencies or private foundations, too. Perhaps most importantly, once the Friends incorporate, there is no question about where the money that is raised belongs. While it may seem incomprehensible that there could be conflicts over the use of donations, that is in fact the most common complaint received by the American Library Association, that without the Friends incorporation, library boards and cities often lay claim to the funds such groups have raised. It's highly recommended that all Friends of the Library groups and library foundations incorporate as 501c3s. Incorporation is accomplished by filing the appropriate forms with the Federal Internal Revenue Service. Visit the website for the IRS at www.irs.gov and click on Charities and Nonprofits under the tab labeled Information For in the toolbar at the top of the page. Then click on any articles of interest, such as exemption requirements for 501c3 organizations, and application for recognition of exemption, and exempt organizations required filings. Form 1023 must be filed within 15 months of organizing. If this deadline is met, the Friends exemption and the deductibility of contributions made to the group will be granted retroactive to the effective date of operation. Otherwise, the exemption will start on the date of the postmark on the application. Failure to apply will result in taxable status for the organization. Form 1023 asks about your group's structure, purpose, officers, activities, plans, and finances. Don't just answer the exact questions and then stop. Bring up anything that might strengthen your position and further your application. An exemption is not automatic. You might convince the IRS that the Friends group is deserving of the status. Accompanying Form 1023 must be an updated copy of the organization's Articles of Incorporation, its bylaws, a statement of receipts and expenditures, balance sheets for the time the organization has been in existence, a statement of proposed activities, and an application for an Employer Identification Number, or FEIN, on Form SS4. If bylaws do not exist, include a statement attesting to their absence. If the organization has not yet begun operations, a proposed budget for 2 full accounting periods and a current statement of assets and liabilities are required. The application fee depends on the level of the group's annual gross receipts. The result is a determination letter or ruling on the group's tax-exempt status. Successful applications, including all attachments, are public documents and are available for public inspection unless public inspection would adversely affect the organization, in which case a written request detailing the group's objections must be filed.
So I've seen this happen to some of the Friends groups at some libraries. What should the library or Friends group do if its nonprofit status lapses?
Tax-exempt organizations are required to file an annual information return with the IRS. Organizations that do not file for 3 consecutive years automatically lose their tax-exempt status. The IRS publishes and updates monthly a list of organizations whose tax-exempt status was automatically revoked because of their failure to file. An automatically revoked organization is not eligible to receive tax-deductible contributions, and donors will not be able to deduct contributions made after the organization's loss of status was published. At that point, it will also be necessary for the organization to file corporate income tax returns and pay any applicable income taxes. The law prohibits the IRS from undoing a proper revocation and does not provide for an appeal process. An automatically revoked organization must apply to have its status reinstated. If the IRS determines that the organization meets the requirements for tax-exempt status, it will issue a new determination letter and update the nonprofit's revoked status on its website.
Oh, this all sounds pretty technical, Mandy. Is it necessary to hire an attorney to help with this incorporation and tax-exempt filing?
Whenever I'm asked if an attorney should be retained in order to navigate our complicated legal system, my answer is always an enthusiastic yes. The professional services of a lawyer guarantee that the process of incorporating, acquiring charitable organization tax status, and complying with nonprofit laws at both the state and federal levels will be accurately and thoroughly completed in a timely manner. There is anecdotal evidence that if the launch of a Friends group or library foundation is bungled, it can take years to rally the support necessary for another go at it. Besides, it's unfair to charge a layperson with the responsibility of handling these very important legal tasks and then blame him or her when something doesn't get done properly. A popular alternative is to recruit a library-loving attorney to sit on the steering committee and provide advice and legal services to the Friends, for free, of course. If that doesn't work out, ask the city attorney for help or find a local private attorney who's willing to do some pro bono work for a good cause.
What role should the library's Board of Trustees play in Friends groups? And what would you say to a board that wants to begin a Friends group at its library?
A member of the library's Board of Trustees should be appointed to act as a liaison to the Friends and attend their meetings and as many of their functions as possible. Likewise, a Friends board member should be appointed as a liaison to the library's Board of Trustees and attend all trustee meetings, report on Friends issues and activities, and report back library board information to the Friends.
What about trustees? Should they also be on the Friends board?
All members of the library board should become personal members of the Friends at the highest level at which they're able to participate. At least yearly, the library board should plan a joint meeting with the Friends board to discuss mutual concerns. This can be done in conjunction with a breakfast or dinner meeting. The American Library Association's United for Libraries says that library trustees should not also serve on the Friends of the Library Board for a number of reasons. It can imbue a single member with more power and authority than his or her peers on each of the boards. There can be a perceived conflict if a member of the policymaking board is also in a decision-making role on the Friends board that helps fund the library's services. And there can be a potential conflict of interest when a policy the Library Board of Trustees is proposing might not be considered to be in the best interest of the Friends. For example, deciding to give discarded library materials to an outsourced agency, or proposing the establishment of a foundation for fundraising. Even if your Board of Trustees and the Friends Board are working in perfect harmony right now, no precedent should be set that will allow possible conflicts in the future. Though a library board member may take a leadership role in creating a new Friends group and therefore have a decision-making role in both for a while, this should be considered a temporary necessity, and the new Friends should elect officers other than library trustees as soon as possible.
What about the library director and staff? Should they be on the Friends board?
The relationship between the library's director and the Friends group should be characterized by mutual respect, a basic understanding of goals and objectives, an appreciation of each other's individual potential for achievement, and the shared enjoyment of ultimate success. The primary responsibility for bringing about this favorable state of affairs rests in large measure with the positive attitude of the library director. Unless the director really wants a Friends group, it's less than fair to encourage its formation. The director should be represented at all Friends meetings. The Friends group must be made to feel that the library director is an important and indispensable part of its endeavors. This relationship should cultivate leadership by the Friends and not dependence on the director. To put it bluntly, cooperation is vital. Without it, a library director can destroy a Friends group, and on occasion, a Friends group has taken down a library director. By understanding each other and working together, the director and the Friends can produce improved library services for taxpayers.
I've been asked previously if attendance at a Friends meeting should count as work time for a director. My reply is that if the director is attending the meeting as a director and providing information that only the director can provide, then yes, that probably is legitimate work time. However, if the Friends are having a trivia night fundraiser and the director is attending as a support and a player and is there for the fun, then no, that instance would not count as legitimate work time. Your thoughts, Mandy?
Yes, I basically agree. Title 29 of the Code of Federal Regulations contains the rules that implement the Fair Labor Standards Act. Section 785.28 is entitled Involuntary Attendance and says that employees are working when they attend a meeting at which their presence is not considered to be voluntary. In other words, the employee's attendance at the meeting is required by the employer, or the employee is given to understand or led to believe that her working conditions or the continuance of her employment would be adversely affected if she did not attend. Here are a few examples of how federal courts have interpreted this regulation. In Florida, a policeman's off-duty physical fitness training was considered voluntary because the police department required only that he pass semi-annual fitness tests. How he accomplished that was up to him. He was not required to train at a particular time at a specific location. Therefore, he was not at work when he was training. In Boston, a university employee was not entitled to pay for time spent obtaining certification as an emergency medical technician, even though his job required the certification, because his employer simply expected him to get certified within a certain amount of time as a condition of his hire. He was not told to report to a particular class at a particular time at a specific location. In Florida, a utility worker took a home study course to supplement his on-the-job training and impress his boss, possibly positioning himself for promotion. But because his employer didn't require the course, it wasn't technically part of his job, even though the course made him better at what he did. So how might this apply to library directors at Friends or Foundation meetings? Well, if your trustees simply express an expectation that you maintain good relationships with these organizations or work with them as appropriate, something vague like that, they're not specifically directing you to attend Friends and Foundations meetings. Perhaps they fully expect you to foster those relationships during the hours you normally work. Who knows? If expectations are unclear, it might be best to clarify the board's instructions with regard to these extracurricular meetings.
We had a question that came up in the chat box, but your question about the co-president of a friends group is a part-time library staff member. So here we're talking about not as the director, but as another staff member. Mandy, can you comment on that, please?
The question has to do with, should a library staff member be on the Friends board? The ALA's subgroup only addresses library board members being part of the board for the Friends or Foundation and does not encourage that. So I suppose staff are free to do that as long as there's no apparent or obvious conflict of interest. A staff member's paid work should take precedent over volunteer work of the Friends or Foundation group. So the first loyalty of staff is to the library. United for Libraries has found that some of the best and most successful Friends groups do indeed receive support from their libraries. The amount should be just a fraction of the amount the Friends donate to the library each year, and the amount may vary over time. New Friends groups are often created by the library staff or trustees, and in the first year, this fledgling group will no doubt need a lot of support in terms of planning meetings, promotions, making copies, flyers, and brochures, and mailing membership recruitment letters. But once the group is up and running, it will be able to operate with less staff time and support. For each library, the support will vary based on the Friends' needs and the staff's discretionary time and the return on investment experienced by the library. If the Friends group is not contributing to the library on an appreciable and regular basis, the library should discuss with them the level of financial compensation the Friends should make in exchange for staff and library support. Remember that a Friends group is an independent, private, nonprofit organization. The group should be self-sustaining to a large degree and should be running its own organization and planning its own fundraising events. A library staff that pitches in too freely with the work may be lessening the engagement of the group's members, and this is not sustainable over the long term.
The United for Libraries website has a nice one-page document about the roles and responsibilities of directors, trustees, and friends when it comes to Friends Group. The document was prepared by the Association of Connecticut Library Board, but certainly applies to any state. So Mandy, you briefly mentioned earlier about staff helping Friends groups. I think you've got some additional insights into that.
Yeah, I know of at least one city attorney who interprets Article 3, Section 31 of the Constitution of Iowa to indicate that public library staff should not help Friends groups by giving time, materials, or the use of the library's equipment to the Friends in support of their activities. While United for Libraries considers funds raised by the Friends and eventually donated to the library to be a return on the investment of the public library's assistance, it can also be argued that the taxpayer-funded library staff, supplies, and equipment are strictly for running the library, and donations will roll in whether or not the taxpayers help fundraisers. The city attorney's point was that if the library provides taxpayer-funded assistance to the Friends group for a total of, say, $5,000 in annual support, what kind of, quote, assistance would be expected when a private corporation or a wealthy individual offers to donate more? And how is it fair or legal to spend taxes acquiring certain donations but not others? At this time, though, there are no court decisions or Attorney General's opinions to clarify that particular section of our Constitution with respect to public libraries and their Friends groups. Just be aware that the library staff's taxpayer-funded involvement in a Friends group may be controversial in your community.
Can the library contribute money to help start a Friends group? For instance, could the library give some of its budget to the Friends to help pay for attorney fees to get the Friends group off the ground?
We're sometimes asked if libraries can give seed money to Friends groups to get them started. The Iowa Attorney General and the State Auditor's Office have interpreted the constitutional clause mentioned above to prohibit libraries from giving public funds or public property to Friends groups. So the answer to that question is an unequivocal no. An extension of that interpretation also makes it illegal for the library to use any of its discounts to order or purchase materials for the Friends group. The library is a public entity, the Friends group is a private entity, and by law they're not to get mixed up with each other when it comes to benefits of their respective statuses. You all know by now, because we've been over this many times before, that even when the library allows the Friends group to have its discarded books and materials, the Friends should pay at least a nominal fee for them so that the library isn't giving public property to a private organization in violation of the law. United for Libraries strongly recommends that Friends and libraries develop a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOUs they're called, so that as the players change, the commitment from both the library and the Friends stays stable. There's a sample MOU on ALA's website that suggests tenets such as the library agrees to include the Friends in the long-term planning process to ensure that the Friends are aware of the goals and the direction of the library. The library agrees to discuss with Friends how their resources and support might help forward its initiatives. The library agrees to supply the Friends with an annual wish list. The library agrees to provide public space for Friends membership brochures and promotional materials. The Friends agree to publicly support the library and its policies. The Friends agree that any and all monies raised will be spent exclusively for library programs, services, and other library-defined needs. The Friends agree that the library administration has the final say in accepting or declining any and all gifts made to the library, etc. These MOUs should be reviewed and possibly amended annually. They can come in very handy if problems pop up between the library's administration and the Friends.
So this next question is a big one. Can Friends and Foundation members advocate or lobby for the library?
Tax-exempt organizations have to limit carefully their political and legislative activity, even if it directly contributes to the accomplishment of a group's tax-exempt purposes. If your group's efforts serve to support or oppose legislation or a referendum, you are lobbying, even if you never contact a legislator and merely urge your members through your newsletter to get involved or to involve their friends. The law limits political and legislative activities in which tax-exempt organizations can become engaged because of the economic leverage tax-deductible charitable organizations have. It's not surprising then that tax-deductible charitable organizations are entirely prohibited from attempting to influence elections for public office. A Friends group can undertake legislative activity, but in a limited way. The IRS recognizes two different kinds of advocacy. The first is called lobbying, and it is when the Friends group itself or its members work to influence policy or legislation in favor of the library. Generally speaking, a Friends group can spend up to 20% of its yearly expenditures on these activities if their annual expenditures do not exceed $500,000. The formula changes for groups spending more. The other type of advocacy the IRS calls grassroots lobbying, and this is when a Friends group works to get the general public to take a specific action on behalf of the library, such as asking the public to vote yes or call the mayor, or something like that. In this case, the group can spend 25% of the 20% allotted above. Again, Friends groups may not advocate, lobby, or engage in grassroots lobbying on behalf of any candidate for office. Check both the United for Libraries website and the website for the IRS to see a list of acceptable political activities for 501c3s.
But it's certainly okay for Friends to be supportive of the library and to attend city council meetings and to stay abreast of actions that may impact the library, and to talk with council members about the importance of the library in the community. The next question is, do we have to submit our financial information for a city audit? If our Friends and Foundation groups are private, nonprofit organizations, Why did the city ask them to submit their financials for the city's audit?
This was once explained to me by the state auditor's director of municipal audits. She said that if asked by the city, a library foundation or a friends group is compelled to submit a brief report outlining the basics of its financial resources to the city. Because library foundations and friends groups are dedicated private entities existing solely to benefit a particular public agency, their resources technically add to the city's bottom line. As far as the world of finance is concerned, then, the city has access to these additional monies. If the city can list these additional assets in its financial portfolio, it's a more attractive financial risk, which allows the city to have a higher bond rating, meaning it can borrow money more cheaply and command higher levels of investments in its projects. It's not so much the city wanting to poke its nose where it doesn't belong. It's actually an attempt to make the Library Foundation or the Friends Group partners in creating a better community. If a foundation or a friends group were to respond to the city that its resources total less than, oh, I don't know, say $5,000, which is a completely arbitrary figure, the city might decide that the organization has too little money to improve its standing and won't pursue any sort of report. This is often why foundation records are requested but not friends records. Foundations are typically holding on to much more money or many more assets than the friends.
Sadly, I've seen this situation occur more than once in our libraries. I've had directors contact me and say, our library's friends group raised money but refuses to spend any of it. What's to be done? Is there a legal responsibility for the friends to spend what money they've raised?
Well, there are no laws pertaining to how much money a nonprofit group, even one that supports a government entity, may accumulate. The only state laws besides tax laws applicable to Friends of the Library groups and other nonprofit organizations are in Iowa Code Chapter 504, entitled Revised Iowa Nonprofit Corporation Act, which doesn't address this type of issue. The Friends bylaws and mission statement could probably be used against them in a court of law. If there are bylaws, a mission statement, or even a memorandum of understanding between the library board and the Friends group, each could be considered a contract of sorts, and the Friends could feasibly be sued for some sort of breach of those contracts, if not by the library, then by the group's donors. Presumably, people join and give money to the Friends because they believe that money will be spent to support the library's collections and programs in the near future. If this is not happening, not only will the Friends lose potential members and donations, but they could possibly be held legally liable by the courts for breach of contract.
Hopefully, you've seen that having a friends group can be a beneficial thing for your library. And before I go on to some more examples of some libraries across the nation, Mandy, we had one more question that came in while you were speaking, and this has to do with what about having the friends have a space in your library building? Is that okay? Maybe to store books or to have a meeting room space or just to use that property as their own?
Well, that would go back to when I was talking about the value of what you're giving. If you are getting sizable and regular contributions from the friends, you may consider those contributions a return on the investment of letting them have a space in the library. However, according to that city attorney, that can be a dangerous thing to do because of what is in the Iowa Constitution about giving public money. And money is used generally, it's a general term. It means anything of value that belongs to the government. Giving anything like that to a private entity, even if it's there to support the library, that can be a dangerous thing to do. And if you do it for the Friends group, when they give you a certain amount of money, what happens when another group offers to give you more if you give them something? It's a slippery slope and has to be considered very, very carefully.
Okay, thank you. And this library also adds that the Friends have a store in the library space, and they also pay rent then for that
Yeah,
space
yeah,
too.
that happens quite a bit. I've seen that in many, many libraries. So that must just be something that's considered not only a public benefit. You can say that benefits the public, but especially if they pay rent and the library board or the city has very, very strict rules about who can rent government property. But it could be considered just like if you have a community center, you rent it out for weddings or wedding receptions or something like that, retirement parties. It could be considered along those lines too.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about some examples. So as we mentioned earlier, it's most often a foundation that is established for purposes of library building projects. But that's not to say that a friends group can't also help. So this is an example from Belle Plaine that shows how friends actually propose the construction for an addition to the public library. You want to help the friends understand that the building is city-owned property even after the addition. So if the friends are willing to help with the actual expansion, more power to your library. Just make sure that the group understands the limitation of their oversight. In more operable situations, the foundation raises funds for major building projects, and the friends might purchase specific furniture, for example, teen space furniture, or opening day collections, or pay for the grand opening ceremony needs, such as food. And then here's an example of the Friends group donating new technology to the library. And this is basically a little free library that the Friends donated on behalf of this library in order to promote a love of books and learning throughout the community. And what Friends group doesn't help with the annual library book sale? Keep in mind that your library cannot just give its withdrawn books to the Friends group, but there are ways the Friends can sell the books and retain the funds for their organization. You just want to make sure you're doing it in the legal way. The State Library has an archived webinar titled Budgets and the Law, which was presented in April of 2017. And you can look at that for more details or contact your district consultant or Mandy for more information, since we don't have time today to delve into this topic. And here's an example from right here in Iowa, Spirit Lakes Green Space. This information is shared by Director Cindy Davis, who wrote to us in March of 2015. My friends group is awesome, she writes. They make stuff happen at the library. In 2014, the Friends group teamed up with the city of Spirit Lake and a young man working on his Eagle Scout project to rehabilitate a rough, sandy patch of ground beside the library. Technically, this is city property, not library property. The city crew did machinery work to level and prepare the land. The Boy Scout installed a post and rope fence and assembled 2 benches, which were placed in the green space. The benches and fence were purchased by the Friends. They just authorized the purchase of a picnic table to add to this space. Our Friends group has been responsible for digitizing our county's newspapers from the 1800s, 1880s to the present. We work with the Friends group from Arnold's Park and Milford. Our Friends group has created a cemetery index of all the cemeteries in our county. This is updated yearly and posted online with links to genealogy sites. Friends have produced a variety of local history videos that involved interviewing local residents about the history of this area. These were originally video cassette, and they have been transferred to DVD and made available for purchase by the public. And Cindy writes, we are discussing developing a digital history project. Cindy goes on to say that her Friends group helps purchase many of the library's online resources, such as the library's ebooks and audiobooks with Advantage, the Zinio digital magazines, and an antiques and collections database. Spirit Lake's Friends group also matched city funds to provide new computers for the library. And that's not all. The Friends group provided electronic door openers and pays for a lot of the library's special programming. The library and Friends are starting to work with other local libraries and organizations to combine resources to bring more programming opportunities, such as author visits, to the Lakes area. Director Cindy Davis says, my Friends group is incredible. They do everything from painting the interior of the building to volunteering for craft day during summer library program. I can't imagine our library without the Friends group. They provide toys, memorials, book clubs, snacks, prizes, furniture, and so forth. They are always willing to listen to ideas and try new things. We have about 200 members in our Friends group with an executive board of 15. So that's definitely a library Friends group success story. So here's something from Director Mary Jo Rupert of Cherokee, who shares these comments about her Friends group. And this is also from 2015. Mary Jo said, "We have a strong Friends group in that they do a successful fundraiser each year. Their fundraiser is a book basket auction for which service groups and individuals are asked to contribute a basket or other container. We've had everything from backpacks to bird baths with a book and related items. They are displayed at the library with accompanying bid sheets from the first week in November through the first Saturday in December, at which time final bids are accepted. We normally have around 40 baskets, and this past year the proceeds were a little over $2,000. The project has been going on for over 10 years and works like a well-oiled machine. They sponsor a chamber coffee each year in November in conjunction with their basket fundraiser. There is also an ongoing year-round book sale with a special event in July. For that once-a-year sale, some of the friends come in and help set up, but otherwise the staff does all the work. Book sales usually net about $1,000 a year. The Friends annually sponsor the summer reading program, pay for the library's ebooks, 2 movie licenses, and a book page subscription, and buy all of the library's audiobooks as well as some DVDs. They have paid to have furniture cleaned, purchased a large flat screen television for showing movies, and are great about paying for special children's programs through the year. This year, they are planning to pay for the Wall Street Journal subscription, which is a big ticket item. They have never refused any funding requests that I have made. Mary Jo has these words of wisdom to share. Encourage your group to have a regular meeting schedule, at least quarterly, and an open for everyone attitude. Rotating, changing the slate of officers is a very good idea. And here are some more ideas for developing or rejuvenating a Friends or a Foundation group. Use the tools you have to capture your audience. And social media can be a great place to promote your group or to put out feelers for attracting people who may be interested in starting a group. You can get good ideas from this resource. United for Libraries is probably the best resource for you to consider as you contemplate a Friends or a Foundation group. It has information for just starting out or for maintaining or building a group. United for Libraries also has a free 45-minute webcast about starting a group. There's the links for Friends and Foundation. Here's that webcast, and that is available out there on this same website. You can show this, maybe get a group of, like Sandy says, enthusiastic library users together, watch this, and see if that can generate or spark some interest in it. And then here's a really cool Friends page of the Arapahoe Library District in Colorado. And I like how this page encourages people to click on the various aspects of their Friends group. So this is a library website. And they just have all the things that they're doing, how to join it, how to volunteer, lots of information. And how cool is this? The top 10 reasons to be a friend of the library. This is from Arapahoe Library also. I really like this option, a place to join a friends group that's readily available online. No need to print a form or visit the library. But there was a problem. When I clicked on this link, it was a 404. So be careful about these things. Have someone regularly review and check the website pages. If this friends group isn't getting many recent new members, perhaps this dead link is the reason why. Once you get your core group of friends off the ground, you need to continue to promote it and its activities and value to the library. We've talked about starting a friends group and mentioned some ideas for existing friends. But what if your friends aren't friendly? What if there were bad feelings from the past? And what if the tax exempt status has expired? What if they won't spend the money, as Mandy mentioned earlier? This fact sheet has some useful information on it, as do all the fact sheets readily available from United for Libraries. So there's the address again, www.ala.org/united. And then click on the link on the left labeled Friends Group. And then here is the link for the fact sheets. There you will find everything you could possibly want regarding a Friends or Foundation group. Note that the title says these are Friends and Foundation fact sheets. There are 27 of these fact sheets available on a variety of topics. Lots of resources out there for you to use. Whether you already have got a friends group or you're trying to get one started, here's an observation you'll want to take advantage of. National Friends of the Library Week. It's always in October, and this year the dates are October 15th through the 21st. That's a great time to promote what your library friends are doing or to recruit members to start a group. It could also be a good time to thank the people who are serving on your friends board if you already have one. There are some resources available from the State Library's collection of professional development books. These are some that Mandy used for preparing today's presentations. These are available for you to check out through Interlibrary Loan if you'd like to take a peek at them. The IRS has information available regarding the start of a nonprofit. I'll send this link out as well too. Mandy talked about the 501c3, and there's some more information about that. And we've already mentioned the Secretary of State's office as a resource and the place to file for your incorporation. And then these are some contact information. There's Mary Ann's and Mandy's. We do welcome your questions or comments about this. If you have any more to say about your friends group or need some help just kind of getting it going, we are standing by ready to help you do this. And we thank you today for your interest in this topic and hope that it actually yields some results. You work with the Friends group to apply for grants. And so you're asking, how does library staff work to apply for grants? Mandy, do you have information about that?
That's probably something district consultants have more experience with. I do have a lot of libraries who call me and say, this grant I'm applying for, you know, only takes applications from 501c3s. Is the library a 501c3, and what do I do about this? And I have learned that the obvious answer to that is the grant has to be applied for by the Friends or the Foundation. The library cannot actually submit the application for the grant. And so at that point, you would work with your friends group and say, hey, we have an opportunity to get this wonderful grant, but they're requiring the applications to come from 501c3s, and that's what you are. Can we work together on submitting this application? And it would be in your name. And if you get the money, we would like an understanding that this is what you would do with it. You know, that's how you have to do that. For some reason, there are lots of streams of revenue that will only go through 501c3s, which is why it's really important to get your friends group or your foundation incorporated, because there are lots of corporations out there who will give money gladly to the public library, but they'll only do it through 501c3s. And so they'll insist on giving it to your friends or foundation group as long as they're incorporated, but they won't give it directly to a government agency.
So that's another good reason to get one up and going and then have that memorandum of understanding where you talk about doing cooperative grant applications.
Right.
That's a good idea. Yeah. And Cynthia has some questions about foundations. Do you have any one in particular right now, Cynthia, that you would like to throw out here? We can see if we can help you with that.
Well, yeah, and
Otherwise,
Cynthia, most of what we said applies to both friends and foundations groups. You know, 90% of what we talked about today goes for both of them. They're both 501c3s. They both have dedicated, you know, mission statements that that focus on the public library. So almost everything's the same, which is why when you go to ALA's website, United for Libraries, you'll see that the fact sheets come under friends and foundations, because the fact sheets almost universally apply to both kinds of organizations.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I will also add that in some communities, the community itself is forming a foundation, so it would be for the community betterment, of which the library is a part of it. So library supporters join the foundation or get on the board, but any money raised is raised through one community organization
Mm-hmm.
and then divvied up among the different agencies that would benefit from the money raised. And then that way, friends of the community can just donate to that one foundation and knowing that they're helping the whole community. So sometimes it's just like getting involved, or if there is a community foundation, getting the library to be a part of that.
I know that United for Libraries wants people to join United for Libraries. They want you to become a member either through ALA, or I believe they offer separate memberships themselves. However, I have called a few times the contact person listed and asked questions, and they talk to me, and I'm not a member of either ALA or the you know, United for Libraries, and they were happy to answer questions. So I think if you have questions that seem complicated, or you need an expert on that particular area of running a library, I wouldn't hesitate to call the contact number that ALA has for United for Libraries. And what's the worst that can happen? They turn you down and say, well, become a member first, then call us, but certainly they do this all over the country, and they're very experienced and very knowledgeable. So don't be afraid to call
Good.
them.
Okay, everyone. Well, thanks for your kind attention this afternoon. We hope you learned a few things. We hope you are successful in keeping your friends group going if you have one, or beginning one, or rejuvenating one if you don't have one. And we'll be around to help you if you have other questions. Goodbye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.